Welcome to the Expansive Astrology Podcast, where we look at using astrology beyond the tropes and horoscopes to tune into the natural forces around us and within us, honoring our true nature to craft our future. I'm your host, Melissa, the self-carewitch, and I'm here to help you meet your magic. Without further ado, let's begin this week's episode with a tarot reading for the collective. Hi, welcome back. It's episode 20, which feels exciting to me for some reason. I'm celebrating that. I don't know. I've made it 20 episodes in 20 weeks. I'm feeling kind of proud and so thankful for you all. Let me just say that right off the bat. Thank you so much for tuning in every week. I am just beyond thankful for the support that I've received. And after announcing the Meet Your Magic membership last week, that has been received so warmly by you all. And I'm just so thankful. I'm just feeling so full of gratitude and warmth and love as I'm sitting down to record today. So that just needed to come out right off the bat. I'm feeling all mushy and gushy and warm and fuzzy inside. So today we are talking about Libra season, and we'll talk a little bit about the autumn equinox, which happens this week, the new moon in Libra, which happens this week, and really just setting ourselves up for a beautiful Libra season. But first things first, the collective tarot reading. So this will be a 4-card spread. So far I only have 2 cards. Oh, there's the third. I'm going to keep shuffling until all 4 cards come out for us, but I'll start to unpack what is present for us. We have the Magician supported by the 7 of Wands present for us this week. The Magician came up for us last week, if I'm not mistaken. And the Magician is ruled by Mercury, and it's Mercury retrograde. So I have to chuckle that has come up both times. Okay, so this is another week of invitations of nervous system tending, nervous system healing. The Magician, according to Soul Tarot, and the Mercury rules the nervous system, which is like freaking everything. And I talk about this a lot more in Gemini season of Expansive Astrology. But in the Smith-Whiter, oh my God, we're doing great. This episode might be a little interesting to get through at this rate. We'll see. Okay. In the Smith-Rider-Waite illustration of the Magician, we see a being who is open from head to toe, right? They have one arm up and one arm down. They are a channel. They are a vessel. They are open to receiving from the divine and channeling it through and making something with that in the real world, using all of the resources that are in front of them. The Magician and Mercury, this is also all very Gemini. And in the Magician, we learn that tending our nervous system and staying open, staying connected, using our resources in the most effective, wise way that we know to, that is the way to be a good magician, a good alchemist. That is the way to affect change. And skipping ahead, the 4th card that came out for us today, our anchor card this week, is the Hermit, which is ruled by Virgo, which is also related to Mercury. And with Mercury retrograde, where notoriously there can be some challenges with technology, communication, transportation, like getting things out and done. It can be hard to feel effective. There can just be little snafus and challenges. There's a tendency to have opportunities to revisit some things that maybe we thought were done or closed. Anything that needs to be revisited. Anything that we need to reflect on, anything that we need to like rethink our approach to is kind of going to come up during different retrogrades. And because Mercury is associated with Gemini, and Gemini is associated with the lovers, and Mercury is associated with Virgo, and Virgo is associated with the Hermit, and then, of course, we have the Magician when we think of Mercury. I've kind of been reflecting on how the lovers, the Hermit, and the Magician together can kind of support us through communication issues, tech problems, just anything that might feel really out of our control or frustrating. Without going too far down that rabbit hole, the lovers is an invitation for like reclamation, reclaiming who and how we are in the world, like showing up in our personal responsibility, showing up in our power, reclaiming responsibility for ourselves, feeling whole and complete and equipped and lovable and loving no matter what we're being met with like externally. Reclaiming our power. And then the Hermit helps us learn to be really present with what is, being present with what is being illuminated to us, exercising our wisdom and our power in the here and now with whatever is being presented to us. And then the Magician, reminding us to stay open, to stay connected, to utilize our resources, reminding us of our power to be a channeler, to be an alchemist, our ability to like take in a situation, experience it, interpret it, and be in charge of the output that then happens. Learning to the best of our ability to utilize what we are, what we have, and what we know to make that output the most empowered and helpful and healthy that it can be. So the Magician is present for us again, and who's surprised by that? But this week it's supported by the Seven of Wands. Now, wands are fire, and according to Soul Tarot, the Seven of Wands is a card that asks us to pay attention to how we're using our fire. It's asking us to pay attention to our hypervigilance, our defendedness. This card helps us evaluate, like, can we be showing up a little less defended, a little less hypervigilant? We have 7 wands, full of fire, lots of power, tons of power. Can we utilize those wands and know that we have them a little more wisely, a lot more intentionally? So hypervigilance, right? It's a byproduct of trauma. It's a very natural occurrence, especially considering the state of the world. We live in a society, and hypervigilance is a really common, really natural reaction to experiencing some scary shit or some threatening things, and even just like the state of the news cycle and like doom scrolling, or when we're on Twitter or TikTok, we're kind of like able to take in anyone's trauma at any time. We're just open to it at all times. That has an impact on us, so whatever your experience is with hypervigilance or traumatic events or anxiety in general. The Seven of Wands has us looking at like that need, that perceived need to stay defended at all times. It can feel really hard to feel safe in the world. And this card comes up just as an invitation, just as like a check-in, like, can you be less defended? It's a reminder that you will know when you are unsafe. You will know when you need to use your fire. And until then, there's no way to enjoy like the pockets of joy and the pockets of ease, the times of safety and calm and security and pleasure and beauty and joy. It's impossible to be fully present there if you are also guarded and ready to be like to defend yourself, to be betrayed, or it's that sense that like, oh, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Oh, things have been too good lately. Something bad is bound to happen. Or that sense of, oh, it's Mercury retrograde. Something bad is bound to happen. And we think that way. We feel that way for good reason. Maybe bad things do always happen. Hard things do come around. Like, yes, there will be a challenge, but don't burn yourself out waiting for that. Don't miss the goodness, the good stuff, waiting for that. And that is the work that supports the magician, right? That is the work that helps us get through things like Mercury retrograde or any other type of stress or any other type of belief or brain story that our safety and security, our wellness is somehow being threatened or endangered. And just another reminder, like, you will know when that's true. You will know when it is time to pick up your fire and pick up your wands and like burn a bridge. You will know. Our lesson this week is the Three of Pentacles. The like key phrase that I always think of with the Three of Pentacles is stay in your lane. Keep your eyes on your own paper and perfect your craft. But not perfect. Because there's no such thing as perfection. And if you struggle with perfectionism, listen to last week's episode. Like really devote the pentacles. There's a sense of devoting oneself to their pentacles, to their soul purpose, to their life's calling, to their metaphorical garden, to their soul's garden, right? This card reminds us that when we focus on becoming the absolute best that we can at what we are meant to do, when we really honor the fact that the hands are an extension of the heart, when we live from the heart, like honing our craft, trusting that process, and trusting that by us doing that, those who are called to it and those who need it and those who appreciate our life's work, like what we've been devoting ourselves to, they will find it, they will appreciate it, they will honor it, trusting that like no one can do it like you. So if you are comparing yourself to another, or if you are feeling incomplete, like you should be doing something else, some different way, as long as you are devoted to building a soul garden that is aligned with your highest calling, right? That is aligned with what feels like a total and complete yes to your mind, body, and soul, and heart, and hands. Just trusting that is what you can do. Trust your work. Trust your process. Don't lose yourself comparing your work and your process to anyone else. Learn what is yours and what is not. The lesson this week is calling you to focus on what you know. Focus on what you're doing. Focus on being the best you that you can be, and trust that that's the right thing to do. It reminds me of one of my favorite affirmations, that I am divinely compensated when I caretake myself. I am divinely compensated when I trust my heart, when I trust my soul, when I follow divine guidance. I am divinely compensated when I devote myself to my work and my healing and my family, and like just being a good steward of this planet in general, I'm finding myself wanting to emphasize the importance of not comparing yourself to others, or when you find yourself comparing yourself to others, like recenter with what is in your hands and how can you do the best that you can with that. And then again, the anchor for the week is the Hermit. As we are transitioning into Libra season, I really love that. The Hermit is teaching us how to be present with what is, how to zoom in to what is being illuminated to us and work with that from there. The Hermit is our anchor. While the Magician is present for us, like we are supported in learning how to be the most powerful, effective magician possible. The only way that we can affect change is if we're able to be with what is. And that's also the way Virgo season sets us up for Libra season. Chef's kiss, baby. Like Libra helps us learn how to bring balance, and the Justice card in the tarot too is kind of like the radical acceptance card, the this it is what it is card, the standing before the judge and jury and looking at the evidence of the matter, looking at the truth of the matter so that we can affect change. It all builds on itself. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mercury enters Virgo in its retrograde path this week too. Man, these like Mercury, Virgo, Libra invitations are really potent. I really want to challenge you to roll with any challenges that arise. I challenge you to roll with the challenges. Any sort of, if a tech problem arises, if an argument arises, any sort of thing that might be perceived as a bump in the road, practice centering in as the Hermit. Practice asking, like, what is being illuminated to me right now? And maybe what is being illuminated to you is your impatience. Maybe what is being illuminated to you is your fear that if you're late, your partner will yell at you. And then that's something to evaluate or work with. What is being illuminated to you? Maybe what's being illuminated to you is that it's not time to work right now. It's time to rest. If you're having some sort of weird, unexplainable computer problem, try to roll with it. Practice being with whatever it is and alchemizing the experience. That's our tarot reading for the week. I hope that feels helpful. I hope that little tangent about Mercury retrograde and the tarot energies associated with Mercury, I hope that feels helpful too. Now let's talk about the invitations of Libra. Libra is cardinal air, ruled by Venus, represented by the scales. Its phrase is I balance, and it rules over the 7th house of relationships. So let's unpack what all of those things mean to really create a full picture of what Libra is. So air energy. Along with Gemini and Aquarius, Libra is air energy, which represents our mental processes, our thinking, our brain chemistry, and our communication. How we make connections, how we move things, express things, get things done. And Libra being cardinal energy, which is getting things done. The cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, and they bring support and stability while being initiating and leading. They are the ones that get the show on the road. They affect change. They usher in the changing of seasons, the moving of the wheel. The easiest way that I've found to remember what cardinal, fixed, and mutable energies are, comes from Roy Gillette, who compares these to a bowl, a spoon, and the ingredients. The bowl are the fixed signs, stable, sturdy. The ingredients are the mutable signs, changing, forming, shifting. And the spoon are the cardinal signs, the ones who move and initiate that change. And looking at the tarot, the queens in the tarot, according to Soul Tarot, not everybody agrees with this, but the queens are cardinal energy, and the swords are air. So the Queen of Swords is the Libra card. And in the Pamela Coleman Smith illustration, the Queen of Swords has this giant sword that she's holding out right in front of her as like this giant boundary right in front of her face. But she's not doing it in like a threatening way. In fact, her other arm is stretched out, palm up, past the sword. There's this balance, there's this simultaneous structure, there's this boundary, this clear, fierce boundary, balanced with an openness, invitation, welcoming. And Libra is ruled by Venus. So there's this like fierceness, right? There's this air energy, this cardinal air energy, like the Queen of Swords means business. You know, she's going to get things done. She's here to evaluate. We'll talk about the scales in a moment. She's here to evaluate and judge and bring balance. And yet, she's ruled by Venus, which is the planet of love and beauty and sex. It's the energy of pleasure and how we love and how we are loved. So while looking at our swords, our boundaries, our communication, our relationships, and where these things are or are not in balance, we're doing all of this with like an air of Venus, with an air of like, what turns you on? What do you treasure? Where do you find pleasure? Like in terms of sex and sexuality and not, and in all other things. Like this includes passion and pleasure outside of just sex. Like even for those who don't engage in sex, because not everybody does, right? It's not just about sex. Venus has us looking at who and what we value and how we show that appreciation. Venus brings an invitation to be in connection with the gifts that are right here, all around us, like and opening ourselves up to receiving. We'll talk about that more with the Empress. And we've been preparing for this with the Hermit or with Virgo, where we're learning to be present with what is. Now, Libra helps us find the pleasure and the beauty in that. We're practicing noticing, like, what is around me physically right now that lights me up and is beautiful? What brings security and balance? And represented by the scales. These scales are a symbol, the scales of judgment. It's mythologically said to be where souls are weighed as they move into the afterlife. Which is funny because Libra comes right before Scorpio, where we're diving into the water. Scorpio is ruled by the death card. It lives in the 8th house of like regeneration or death, life, death, and rebirth. We see the scales used in Egyptian mythology, Greek mythology, and even still used today. But in Egyptian religion, the scales of judgment were used by Anubis. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope I am. This is the master of balance who guided the dead through the underworld and made sure they were judged fairly. In one bowl of the scale, the heart of the dead would sit, and in the other, the truth, represented by a feather. In Egyptian religion, the soul must be in harmony with the truth before it could move into the afterlife. Radical acceptance, being with what is, being a good steward of the earth, balance. And we still see the scales used as a symbol of justice even in our modern systems, a symbol of being impartial and just. And Libra rules the 7th house of partnership and relationships. We get to look at, how we relate with others in the world. How we find comfort with others, even if it's new or vulnerable or unfamiliar. Also, how we find or engage with intimacy. This is something I love to work on, like one-on-one with clients, is how we show up in relationships, how we can practice being our most authentic, organic, honest selves and staying effective, right? Communicating our needs, engaging in relationships in a really effective, empowered way. Empowered Libra is outgoing, friendly, charming, diplomatic, a brilliant host, providing security and comfort, harmony, reliability. Libra's honest and considerate. A master of creating comfort, a peacemaker. Libra is creative and optimistic. It's adaptable and open-minded. It's empathetic and can really understand others' point of view. It's really willing to be with others and see others and create beauty with others. And as with anything, there's a disempowered expression of all of this too. And that can look really like people pleasing. It can look like dependency on relationships or dependency on others, being over dependent. Libra can be very indecisive and fickle, or I don't know, it can also be a control freak. Cardinal air has this great ability to affect change, and there's a way to affect change that is empowered and helpful and likable. And there's a way to be the Queen of Swords that is not so likable, and it's not all about being likable, right? But being effective and healthy and helpful and doing things in a way that is respectable to us and to those that matter most to us. Disempowered Libra can have trouble with giving too much, and it can it has the strength of boundaries and assertiveness, and it can really struggle with avoidance and avoiding conflict out of this need to be likable, and to be friendly and to bring comfort. it's all about balance, right? It's all about addressing these challenges in a way that is empowered. Some of the challenges that Libra faces is in just that, right? Just what I was saying, like managing people pleasing, improving our relationships in a way that is not giving too much of ourselves. It's like giving just enough of ourselves, engaging in intimacy in a way that feels vulnerable and raw and also safe, but also just enough of like discomfort or a risk, but also safe, right? It's hard to find that balance. It's hard to shift away from people pleasing. It's hard to shift away from an external locus of control or looking outside of us, looking to our relationships, looking to just external circumstances to validate who and what we are and what we bring to the table. Libra can struggle with that. Libra can struggle with never feeling satisfied. There's like kind of self-indulgence or overindulgence with such a heavy Venus influence. There's an empowered way to be Venusian, and there's a disempowered way to be Venusian, if you know what I'm saying. Libra has this innate ability to create beauty, even in the midst of things seeming horrifying or terrible. So consider for yourself, how do you create beauty, even in the midst of things that seem horrifying or terrible? How do you express affection and receive affection? How do you enjoy and receive beauty? How do you enhance the experience of others? Libra is so great at seeing all perspectives, and it can also get stuck and really bogged down by the mental energy that it takes to constantly be assessing over others, what exists in its potential for more beauty or change. We're looking at balance, patience, learning to hold the vision of what's possible and what could be more comfortable or beautiful or just, and holding acceptance for where we are. Remembering that acceptance does not mean approval, right? Like we can strongly disapprove of something and also accept the reality of it. Stop fighting it, stop resisting it. Libra helps us find center when things are not centered, like Virgo. We've been learning this in Virgo. How to be with what is. Libra's bringing us into more of making the most of what is, bringing about balance, sacred balance, sacred resourcing. Lindsay Mack says, quote, Libra really calls us to say, can we find nourishment and medicine in where we are currently, knowing that there is still room to evolve? There can still be room to shift and change. It really invites us to see where we are without judgment, so that we are free to adjust it in time if we can. We have to start with what's true and what's actually here in order to move into where we'd like to be. Unquote. Which is why later this season we'll be revisiting DBT's radical acceptance. And even next week in Tarot Week, we're looking at the Justice card. Looking at the things in life that are not fair. How do we deal with that? How do we show up to that? How do we deal with the times we find ourselves asking, like, why did this unfair thing happen to me? Like, what was the purpose? How do we work with that? I think we can all relate to those moments. In this season, while we're doing that difficult work, that difficult radical acceptance work, that difficult work of looking at where things are in balance, where things aren't in balance, where things are and are not fair, and finding the beauty in everything, that inspired by Venus, finding or crafting beauty in everything that we possibly can. Explore how you create beauty and how you receive beauty. Examine how you show up in relationships and how you would like to improve in your relationships. Examine the sticky and difficult and powerful invitations that come up when we experience or witness or, more importantly, cause injustice, which all includes healing and growing past generational wounding, right? Like, yikes. It's a lot. So I have an affirmation for you as we move into Libra season. I surround myself with peaceful and harmonious energy in order to bring balance into my life. And we'll keep exploring that this whole season, looking at relationships and balance and acceptance. That's all I have for you this week. I hope it feels like a really good jumping off point for us to hop into Libra season together. Libra officially begins on Thursday, and then we have a new moon on Sunday. So this is the week to really plant the seeds, set the intentions. What do you want to bring in with Libra season? Speaking of all that, the new moon and whatnot, here's this week's astrological forecast for you. This is all printed in the show notes. It's all in Eastern time. Just make note of these things. Notice what might come up for you during these different astrological transits or different moon phases. It's not meant for you to overly structure your life around these things, but rather just to get curious and stay open to seeing what happens. It's kind of fun. On Tuesday the 20th, the day of this upload, the moon is void of course from 11:57 a.m. until it enters Leo at 4:38 p.m. They say when the moon is void of course to try to not engage in very many goal-directed activities and rather to kind of surrender or engage in more passive or self-care type of activities. On Thursday the 22nd, the moon is void of course starting at 7:07, and it doesn't go direct until the next day, Friday, when it enters Virgo at 3:53 a.m. But on Thursday the 22nd, it's the autumn equinox, and the sun enters Libra at 9:04 p.m. This is a time to reflect on where we've been in the first half of the astrological year, the zodiacal wheel, what we've crafted and harvested in the light of the sun, and what we want to bring with us as we kind of turn inward and enter the darker half of the year. Libra helps us bring balance there too. Libra is like this threshold where we're, at least in this hemisphere, we're moving from summer into fall. What will that look like for you? Some people really struggle with these next, I'll just say 6 months or so, these darker seasons, these darker months of the year. It can be really difficult to keep that same energy that we have when the sun is out. There's a lot of reasons for that. And we shouldn't be expected to keep the same energy as when the sun is out. It's all cyclical. It happens, the year unfolds in a spiral, the seasons unfold in a spiral. And we're meant to approach ourselves and our goals, our work, our lives. We're meant to approach things differently in this half of the year. How do you want that to look for you? And there's just some of the musings that come up when around the autumn equinox. Jumping back to Friday the 23rd, Mercury, still retrograde, enters Virgo at 8:04 a.m. And then on Sunday the 25th, the moon is void of course from 8:49 a.m. until it enters Libra at 12:43 p.m. And then in the evening at 5:55 p.m., we officially have the new moon in Libra. It's the beginning of a new month. It's the beginning of a new cycle. We get to really float in Libra energy and consider how we want to use the medicine of Libra, how we want to use the invitations, the gifts, the strengths of Libra in our own personal world, in our own personal way to help us, get closer to where we're trying to go. We took a week off, and finally, Sunday the 25th, we have a moon meetup where we get to really plant these seeds, set these intentions for Libra. I can't wait for this one. And especially considering that it's officially the autumn equinox, we're looking at how far we've come in the first half of the year, celebrating that, and also looking forward to where we want to head in the latter half of the year. I have some exciting things planned for this week's moon meetup, so I'd love for you to join us in person here in Old Town Fort Collins or online over Zoom. Let me know if you have any questions about that. I would love to have you. And then next week, Tuesday the 27th, the moon is void of course from 12:21 p.m. until it enters Scorpio at 7:15 p.m. That's also the date of our next episode, episode 21, where it is Tarot Week, Libra season, Tarot Week. We'll be exploring all that Libra is through the lens of the tarot, looking at justice, the empress, the Queen of Swords, and the sword suit in general. That's all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this feels supportive. I hope it feels helpful. I hope you feel ready for a beautiful Libra season. I know I do. I love this energy. If you like what I'm doing here, and if you're interested in attending moon meetups on a regular basis, or if you're interested in receiving a tarot reading from me on a regular basis, please consider my new offering, the Meet Your Magic monthly membership, where for $21 a month, you can support the podcast, and in exchange, I'll support you. I want to say thank you again to those of you who have already signed up to become a member. It really excites me. I can't wait to see this grow. I hope to craft much more of a community, out of this Meet Your Magic monthly membership, but we're just getting started. I appreciate you. I appreciate my members so much. Should I you know how some creators will list their members at the end of the episode? I don't think I'll ever do that. I don't think that's not really my style. But I do want to thank you. I really appreciate those of you who have signed up already. And my hope is that it feels mutually supportive. On that note, I want to wish you all well. I hope you take really great care of yourselves. And thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you next time. Bye. Now, before you go, let me keep your ear for just a moment. This week's episode is brought to you by www.theselfcarewitch.com, my bread and butter, where you can find more information on my current courses, offerings, and other fun ways to connect with myself and yourself. If you enjoyed this episode and you dig what I'm doing here, please subscribe to the podcast, rate it, and leave a review. It helps so much. And if you'd like to connect with me, head to theselfcarewitch.com. I'd truly love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.